We are the Brothers Mahoney. It is I, Michael,
And I'm James.
and we wanted to just discuss briefly the new Doctor Who trailer that dropped on Christmas. Naturally, of course, for the 60th anniversary of Doctor Who. Of course, not only is Russell T Davies coming back as the showrunner, we also have David Tennant returning as the 14th Doctor.
Yes, and he's coming back to Doctor Who for the first time since the End of Time Part 2, which maybe not the best story, but we'll talk about that eventually.
Before we jump into the trailer, I wanted to discuss briefly our thoughts on Chris Chibnall's time as showrunner.
Yeah, I'm speaking for both of us when I say neither of us were particular fans of the Chibnall era. No, it wasn't completely Chibnall's fault. We weren't huge fans of at least our first impressions of the Moffat era, the later Moffat era. We weren't the biggest fans of that either, but Chibnall took it to a whole new level where it was kind of how to keep watching. Usually we had caught Doctor Who around the night it aired, maybe the next day, so we could skip through the commercials. But with the Chibnall era, we recorded it, then we would maybe get to it in a month. And then when the episode wasn't very good, in our opinion, we would wait another month. And that's about how we watched the era. At one point, we were at least a year and a half behind, but because of the way they've been releasing episodes, I mean, we caught up, in a day. And that was one horrible day. It will live in infamy.
I'm not a big Chibnall fan. I think just a lot of the writing for many of the stories was rather abysmal. At the very least, it didn't strike me as near as interesting as most Moffat stories, or even most, of course, Russell T Davies stories. Even the worst Moffat stories probably still something I'd rather watch than the best Chris Chibnall story.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. There's only one Chris Chibnall story, maybe two, but I'll need to rewatch one of them, that have any even half good feelings towards, and that's The Power of the Doctor. And that was only because of the fan service in it. Nothing with the writing, because I thought the writing was still rather bad. I thought it was honestly a big disservice to the idea of the Doctor meeting all companions, because they only had one meeting. But we're not going to do a dissertation on that episode right now. Just, that was the only one there were some things in some episodes I liked, but not enough to make the episode good. And most of those were in series 12, which was probably Chibnall's best season, but that still doesn't make a very good season.
Like, I enjoyed portions of Spyfall, for instance.
And I actually did like Spyfall at all, so that's going to be one of the few things that Michael will enjoy more than I did, Chibnall-wise. On the other hand, I enjoyed Can You Hear Me a bit more than Michael did, I believe.
And I think we both thought the haunting of Villa Diodati had some potential, had a decent atmosphere, and that's probably another one of the stronger episodes.
Oh yeah, that's the one I'll need to rewatch again. I have only seen it once, but it felt like it actually had some atmosphere to it. It felt kind of cool.
I think it's fair to say that both of us think Fugitive of the Jadoon and the whole Timeless Children thing was somewhat not great.
Yeah, it was. It might be an interesting idea, and I know there are going to be some people who, one, like the idea, and two, make some connections to it with the whole Brain of Morbius debate that's been raging in the fandom for years and decades now. And I get that, but the way it was written, I didn't particularly like. I just think of it out in the Chibnall era, the Doctor is out of character, and I don't mean being a woman, but just the characterization of the characterization of the character just felt off. It did not feel like Doctor Who. To me, it felt like a generic Disney sci-fi show. And I get that they did a retool with Series 11, but the thing is, they had just done a retool in Series 10, and that retool actually, for a lot of people, really worked. I didn't like Series 10 as much as other people. I didn't like Capaldi as much as other people.
I do think Series 10's probably better than Series 9 was.
Yes, I'll probably play Series 10 above Series 9. I'll need to rewatch a lot of Series 10, but yes, I need to rewatch Series 10, but yes, overall I'll place it above 9 most likely.
I guess one last thing to say about Chibnall's time as showrunner, a lot of the characters, not just the Doctor, but a lot of the companions, they didn't seem to really have much in the way of character. I know that, for instance, Yasmin has a lot of fans, and I thought she had potential. I thought the acting was fine, but as a character, I just didn't get much. But she still had more character than either Ryan or Graham or even, God, do I have to talk about Dan, who has to be one of the weakest companions, in my opinion, in the whole of even Adam had more character than Dan did.
Well, the entire point of Adam was that he had too much character. He had motivations. He had, he had ideas. No, they weren't good ideas. And I love the fact that they continued with his story in a comic book series. But yeah, he had goals. He had motivation. No one in the Chibnall era had that. You could barely call anybody in the Chibnall era having a character arc. I was just talking to Michael about this today. I'm convinced that the first time anybody writing, well, mostly just Chibnall, I'm convinced the first time Chibnall got the idea that Yasmin might be romantically interested in the Doctor was probably while writing Eve of the Daleks, because there might have been maybe one thing people see as a hint during Owl of Flux, but there was only one. Then that was it. And she had been a companion since the very first Geordie episode. So that's something that you build to. You don't just throw on us. But that's not how Chibnall writes.
Yeah, so I think it's easy to say that both of us were looking forward to turning a new page in Doctor Who. And I know some people think, oh, hey, bringing Russell T Davies back, along with David Tennant, that's not turning a new page. It's just going backwards. I'm honestly okay with it.
Well, I know you have some problem with bringing David Tennant back.
That's true. I was not a big fan of bringing David Tennant back to the role of the Doctor. Just the idea of bringing back a previous individual who played the Doctor just sort of rubs me the wrong way, because maybe now people are like, oh, hey, let's bring Matt Smith back. Oh, hey, let's give Peter Capaldi some more time.
I agree to an extent. It's how to exactly phrase how I feel about this, but I never want Doctor Who to come down to the actor. There was a lot of people who grew up with Doctor Who, and they see the Doctor as David Tennant. And that's fine to an extent, because there's a lot of people who saw the Doctor as Tom Baker. Those are the two popular faces of both the classic era and the revival era. And that's fine. But the Doctor's always been more than the actor playing. The Doctor is an idea. It's an embodiment of how the characterization has existed for decades. When David Tennant became Matt Smith, the actor, of course, changed, but the idea stayed the same. It was repackaged, it was, changed a little, but overall, the idea is the same. What matters to me is the Doctor, not so much the actor. To me, it feels kind of grasping to not only bring Russell T Davies back, which I'm not opposed to. I mostly enjoyed the Russell T Davies era, especially season 4, which by and large is considered the best season of the revival. Either that or season 5. I've seen some arguments about season 5 being better, but either of those seasons works really well. So I don't mind bringing back Russell T Davies as showrunner half as much as I mind David Tennant, just because it feels too fan servicey. But I think I trust Russell T Davies. I trust he knows what he's doing. Honestly, though, with this trailer that came out, I'm really excited for the upcoming specials.
Yeah, and it's strange to say that, because, James alluded to it earlier. Getting through a lot of Chris Chibnall's time was for me, it was a literal struggle. It was hard for me to work up the ability to care.
I'm not going to lie. There was one episode, I don't know if it was because of something going on with me at the time, but there was one episode in Jodie's first season that literally gave me a headache. And I'm not talking, oh, I didn't understand it. It actually gave me a headache. Maybe it was the TV we were watching it on, but the Serenga Conundrum, which is not a good episode anyway. Almost nobody thinks that's a good episode that I've seen. But there was a tone that to me seemed to get played through the entire episode. And even by halfway through, it was hard for me to physically watch it. I'm not saying that's on the episode. I'm not saying it was even there completely, but that was my first impression. And I can't deny that it was a very good first impression.
Yeah, and I'll just say one last thing. Again, it was a struggle to get through. My passion felt like it was dying watching that. I mean, our 3 seasons were not great. These passos being Eve of the Daleks, Large of the Sea Devils, and Power of the Doctor. I think Power of the Doctor is easily the best one. I know Eve of the Daleks has some fans, but I just don't see it.
I think it was more watchable. It's one of the few that I rewatched for fun. It was fine enough. It wasn't great, but for the Chibnall Era, it was almost for the Chibnall Era, it was good, but that's a very low bar, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I get it's just strange to be excited for Doctor Who again because it has been a little while. I was even that thrilled for a lot of Peter Capaldi's time. I think he was a decent Doctor, but a lot of the I think the issue with Capaldi is a lot of his stories weren't that great. He had some real bangers. World Enough in Time and The Doctor Files, the end of season 10. I thought that was a extraordinarily decent Capaldi. I think it's one of the stronger Capaldis in the last 10 years.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the Capaldi era either. Not so much because of Peter Capaldi. I actually really liked him as a Doctor, especially his characterization in his first season. Now, I did like the stories of it all of his first season, although Mommy on the Orient Express was really good and was likely my favorite of the season. Deep Breath is also better than I recalled it being the last time I rewatched it, but overall the stories were on the weaker side. But his characterization for his first season is very strong. I liked it more than his characterization in the other 2 seasons at the very least. But besides the characterization, to me there wasn't all that much pulling me towards that whole era. Although again, the season with Bill was stronger than I remember it being with the bit that I've rewatched here and there.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that for both of us, it's been a little while since we've really been what you could call excited for upcoming episodes of Doctor Who. And after watching this trailer, it really does seem like a nice return to form.
The first thing I noticed in watching this trailer was just how gorgeous it looked. Some things in the Whittaker era kind of looked okay, but the cinematography bothered me, to be honest. A lot of it, I don't usually notice cinematography. I only notice if if I really like it or I really don't. And I mean, it's funny. In this case, I really didn't like the Geordie era cinematography. And this trailer literally got me excited again because everything looked amazing in this trailer. I get that it's a trailer, so they have to kind of make it look amazing, but it just really looked good when watching this. All the sets looked gorgeous. The one I'm especially thinking about was the spaceship in the playground. The small was likely in Cape Shuttle. It just looked great.
Yeah, but it looked nice. It looked pretty much like a movie.
Yeah, not only did it look like a movie, but the soundtrack, which also I think was personally lacking during the Geordie era, but the soundtrack was like, I was back to being bombastic. It was exciting. Again, I know it's a trailer, but it was still exciting.
Yeah, so not only does the music sound pretty nice, not only does the production look nice, but of course, having both David Tennant and Catherine Tate back as Dana Noble, again, fantastic combination in season 4, and I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer starting out with Dana speaking. It sounds so nice to hear her voice again. I really liked her as a companion. I thought she was very well written. Yeah, I found Dana really relatable as a character, and I just thought she was very well written.
Yeah, the thing with Dana, she felt a lot different than previous companions. I mean, with both Rose and Martha, there's a romantic element sort of thrown in. Obviously, for Martha, it didn't go her way, but there's still a romantic element thrown in. With Dana, there was none of that.
Plus, she was older than the other 2, so it just felt like a fresh new type of companion Doctor team up, which is really nice.
Yeah, like a new dynamic between companion and Doctor.
There weren't many lines in the trailer. There were only around 3 or 4, honestly. And besides the great line with Dana at the very beginning, there was, of course, a Beep the Meep, which we will get to. That's a fascinating little bit of Doctor Who history there. But there was also the Doctor's line, and I'm not talking about him not knowing who he was. That was almost a bit too Geordie for my taste, but I'm sure that's not quite what they were going for. Just the line about, the Doctor says about Dana, I don't believe in destiny, but if destiny exists, then it is hiding for Dana Noble. I thought it was ominous. It was making you wonder what's happening in the story that's making the Doctor say this. It makes me excited. I want to know how they're going to continue the Dana arc, which we haven't seen her since 2010.
Related to that, many people believe that Yasmin Finney, who is joining the cast, is going to be the daughter of Dana Noble and Shaun, who we saw at the end of time. I don't know much about Finney, but she appears in the trailer throughout, and if she is indeed the daughter of Dana, that's going to add another interesting element to this.
Yeah, that would be especially interesting, especially since if real time is basically being followed, like only 13 years have passed since the end of time, so any daughter of Dana and Shaun should just be 13. And while she looks kind of young, the actress who I'm not personally familiar with, she looks older than 13 at least. Granted, we have the scene in the playground, which could hint at her being younger, but I don't think she's 13 certainly. So I'm sure there's going to be an easy answer. Maybe it's a daughter of Shaun from a previous marriage. That's always possible. I will say neither Michael and I follow fan theories when it comes to upcoming Doctor Who all that much. We kind of like watching as it comes. I only saw a couple of spoilers for the Power of the Doctor because I was on a Doctor Who subreddit. But even then, I didn't see the David Tennant spoiler until just a week before we decided to watch it. So I don't know how I was able to avoid it, but I did.
Yeah, and I think this isn't even a spoiler because it's not confirmed, but the only quote-unquote theory that I really have been following is just that Neil Patrick Harris, who is also appearing, and who also appeared in the trailer a couple of times, is playing the Celestial Toymaker.
Yes, I find this a very exciting possibility. I mean, it's almost basically confirmed. I would be amazed if he wasn't at this point playing the Toymaker. As I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed a bit more the episode Can You Hear Me? And one of the reasons I enjoyed that a bit more was because of the references to past Doctor Who stories. And in that episode, one of the characters mentioned the Toymaker, which I was like, oh, I remember the Toymaker, that's fun. And now we get perhaps the Toymaker back in the flesh for the first time since Doctor Who Season 3.
We've mentioned at some point before that the Celestial Toymaker, which was a 4-episode story, the last episode exists, but the first 3 do not. They just have the audio. And if this is indeed the Celestial Toymaker, I'm almost wondering if maybe we'll be lucky enough that they might try to animate the first 3 episodes and get it out on DVD within the next year, or at least before November.
Yeah, I'm not as convinced about that possibility. It would be nice. I just don't have that faith. But nonetheless, the Celestial Toymaker, even though he's only appeared once in Doctor Who, the actual TV show, has popped up elsewhere throughout Doctor Who media. Not too many places, but he pops up every now and again. One of the places he popped up was a BBC Past the Doctor Advances novel. I find that a very interesting series, and I look forward to being able to get into those novels. But the novel Divided Loyalties from 1999 has the Toymaker in it, which is a novel featuring the 5th Doctor with Adric, Nyssa, and Tegan. So it has a nice full cast, and I'm sure that will be an exciting one to read when we get to it. Another place the Toymaker shows up was, of course, he was supposed to appear in a 6th Doctor serial for season 23 before the show was cancelled. It's famous now, The Nightmare Fair, which was supposed to have the 6th Doctor and Perry go against the Celestial Toymaker. Now, they've done a novelizations of that last story, and they did a big finish version that came out in 2009 of the Nightmare Fair, which of course has the Toymaker appearing. He also shows up in a companion chronicle, which is a big finish sub-range where it's narrated by a companion. This companion happens to be Charlie, a companion of the 8th Doctor, and we get the joys of the Toymaker in Solitaire, which came out 2009. But so he's shown up every now and again throughout Doctor Who media, and it's just nice that we are very likely going to be seeing him again. And the Neil Patrick Harris version looks very interesting, and I quite look forward to how it's going to look.
And it's also fair to say I would say like a giant fan of Neil Patrick Harris. Like I've never watched How I Met Your Mother, for instance, but he was in a musical short I rather enjoy, the Dr. Horrible sing-along blog, and I've always found his performance in that quite enjoyable.
Yeah, he's just one of those classical actors who does everything he can with the roles he's in. He elevates anything he's in. So this was already elevated with David Tennant, Catherine Tate. It was already going to be good, but with him in it, and with what little we saw of him in the trailer, it's just looking to be a great cast in this story. Well, that's also interesting to think about. I don't know if it's been said anywhere, but I know we're getting 3 passes in November 2023. Now, I'm not sure yet if it's going to be one serialized story in 3 parts, like what Flux was supposed to be, and I guess technically is, or if it's going to be 3 separate stories that just, have an overarching theme, kind of like a sort of version of a Moffat or Davis season, with a arc. I'm not sure which one it's going to be. Either way, I'm sure it's going to work out rather nicely, and I hope it's as good as I hope it's as good as it looks like it's going to be.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell based on the trailer. From everything we see in the trailer, it could just be from the same single episode.
Yes, it's very possible that we're only seeing 1 episode. Now, I don't know how likely it is, but it's certainly possible.
Another thing that I'm quite interested in, and this is something that we didn't know when watching the trailer, it took a little online investigation, but it looks like there's going to be some interesting characters brought into the show.
Yes. No, a lot of people have commented on it that it's one of the most striking parts of the trailer. One of the only things that I think is actually new from the trailer, besides a couple of lines. But Beep the Meep. Now, everybody at this point knows now because they've all done their looking into it. They've been on Twitter. Beep the Meep was a character from Doctor Who and the Tower Beast, which was a comic strip from Doctor Who Monthly from February to April 1980. I believe it was the 4th Doctor. And Beep the Meep was just a character. This looks like it's very interesting. It's going to be one of the few times that the show has done this, but it looks like it's just going to be a straight up adaptation. At least one of the episodes, if not the all 3 parts, it's going to be an adaptation of this story because there's a lot of beats from this story that look like they're going to be in the episode. So that's an interesting way to do it. And it's a very interesting story to take from because this is a 60th anniversary. Now, I realize we just had a lot of previous Doctors in the Power of the Doctor, but to take from a 1980s comic strip is a very bold choice for Russell T Davies.
Yeah, and to be fair, I believe it was also adapted into a Big Finish audio version.
Yes, it was. Neither Michael or I have listened to the audio, but yes, it was adapted. Also, Beep the Meep is interesting. He has a very small amount of appearances in Doctor Who media, but he does show up in a free 30-minute audio that you can get from Big Finish with the 6th Doctor called The Ratings Wall. It came out in 2002, and I don't know too much about it, but it's just one of those free promotional things. It's just 30 minutes. It has the 6th Doctor and apparently Beep the Meep. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and also you can see in the trailer, this is almost sort of goofy looking green alien, which also comes straight from the same story of Beep the Meep being the Wrath Warriors.
Yeah, I actually really like how they look. It has the whole classic Who thing going for it, where it almost looks intentionally bad, but in a way that makes it look good. It's not easy to explain. It has the camp feel going for it, but the camp feel, when planned, works really well, especially with Doctor Who.
And I personally look forward to seeing how exactly the whole Beep the Meep storyline ties into the Celestial Toymaker, if that is indeed who Patrick Harris is playing.
Yeah, I mean, even ignoring that, how Cody Gatwa is going to, come into play, because we've only seen one scene with Gatwa, and they used it in both trailers. And I just want to see what they're going to do with the character, how the Toymaker plays in. A lot of people have suggested, and I personally agree, that the Toymaker somehow got in the way of the Doctor's regeneration. So this revert back to David Tennant isn't a natural regeneration. It's more of a planned accident by the Toymaker, who is, more celestial in nature, so he might have the power to intervene in that way. But it'll be really cool regardless to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and again, I'm looking forward to it. It's nice to have that feeling again with Doctor Who. It looks like there's a lot of strong things coming for these passos, and well, they obviously have the time. It's not going to be out for another 10 months. I'm sorry, it's not going to be out for another 11 months. So they have time to get people more ramped up. I'm hoping for, of course, more, teasers and more trailers released in that, coming 6-7 months.
I would like more teasers, but sometimes teasers spoil a lot. So if they capped it to a minimum, I think that would be great. I think this is a very nice taste. I think maybe one more taste in around June, and then maybe one in September. And I think they can just limit it to that. Give us just a very small amount, and let us be able to come into these hopefully not knowing all that much, because I think they'll make the experience all the better.
I can agree with that. One thing I wanted to discuss, and this wasn't in the trailer, but it's a piece of conversation, is with the passing of Bernard Cribbins, exactly where Wilf comes into the story, because we know that he was able to film scenes, and I'm pretty sure it's being confirmed that he will be playing a part in one, at least one of these passos.
I don't know exactly what was confirmed. I know he was seen on set, and I know it's highly speculated that his scenes were filmed, but I really don't know the specifics, and it's one of those things I don't really want to know. I would assume no matter what, whether the scenes get filmed or not, that at least one of the episodes is going to be dedicated to him, because, I mean, why would they be? It would be a complete missed opportunity to not dedicate one of the episodes to Bernard Cribbins, so I'm positive Russell is going to do so.
And it's also worth mentioning that if he did indeed film his scenes, there's no way they would ever put that in the trailer. They would never use that type of thing for advertising.
No, there ought to be respectful to him and his family.
So I think that's what I almost look forward to the most. I mean, I look forward to Cody Gatwa coming in as a Doctor. I look forward to, if this is the Celestial Toymaker, how this whole story goes down. Beep the Meep looks cute. I'm behind him. So I think it's just a lot of very encouraging things coming from this trailer.
Now, I don't know if I've seen a Doctor Who trailer in years, but if I have, even if I haven't, I'll just say it's the most exciting trailer I've seen for Doctor Who in a long time.
I agree. I'm quite excited. And that is our take on the trailer. It's been a bit later than we initially planned on doing it. We had some computer issues earlier on, but hey, it's our part of the fun. So we're both excited, and we hope that you enjoyed listening to our views. As always, we are the Brothers Mahoney. This has been Michael.
And I'm James.
And we hope that you have a pleasant day and or night.